tools together. One of the big ethical debates going on is AI and warfare. So, for example, should a drone be able to use one of the patents, what it was about was empowering teachers to know when a student is about to fail an upcoming examination, and then providing a recommendation as to why we think they might fail and offering a recommended intervention. So it's predictive. The startup founder is not necessarily going to say, "Oh, we'll figure it out tomorrow." He or she might say, "No, we're getting this done," and then you work through the night 4 nights in a row.
Welcome to SiliconTale, a podcast where we discuss about technology, science, business, and entrepreneurship. My name is Akash, and today we are joined by a visionary and amazing leader, Zachary Elewitz, Head of AI and Senior Director, Fortune Brands Innovation, ex-director and ex-leader of data science at FX. Zachary, it's a pleasure to have you over the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So before we start with our podcast and to know more about this world of data, let's uh, take a moment to explore your journey. I was going through your records and I came across you had a very exceptional journey even in the world for data. So I would love to hear more about your journey.
So, in school, I did math and physics, did a PhD in math and an MBA, which is way more education than one actually needs to get into data science. Um, I was getting towards the end of my PhD and was worried about finding jobs, so I ended up reaching out to a bunch of people on LinkedIn and found a job as an analyst. And I said, "Oh, I like understanding how things work," and was fortunate enough to get hired by Ernst& Young. It was a really rough but educational opportunity. It's where I learned how to really communicate with other people, not just using technical language, but language that other people can understand. And it also helped teach me that it's not just about the mathematical thing you're working on. There is a product impact you need to be working towards, and that really served me well throughout the career I've had so far. I've had different data science, machine learning engineer, and data engineering roles at Pearson, making the company that makes all your textbooks. I've worked simulating Medicare policies for a company that supported the U.S. government. I created a trading company once for a couple of years, and that was really fun and educational, having to define the features that were most important to the trading engine. I led 3 data science teams at Neiman Marcus, working on customer lifetime value in the middle of the pandemic. My last role was at WEX, which is a payment processing company that offers benefits around the experience of owning a fleet of vehicles. And so a lot of interesting models around credit card fraud, application fraud. So we also had HSA accounts, so helping motivate people to get more engaged with that. But what's really cool is large language models. ChatGPT hit in late 2022 when I was working at WEX, and they really invested into it. And so a lot of really fascinating models came. A fine-tuned large language model that was helping go through uh, what's it called? The phone trees. You call AT&T, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, making payments on behalf of customers in a really cool tool that is about to hit soft launch. That helps people understand their HSA benefits while using plain English. Currently, I lead AI at Fortune Brands Innovations. It's the Fortune 500 company you've never heard of, but we own a lot of brands that you're familiar with, like Yale, Masterlock, Moen, Thermatru, and it's a really exciting opportunity. We're in the middle of a really amazing digital transformation and working a lot of cool models to empower our analysts to better understand our products and to help with supply chain.
Okay. So coming to sort of the career milestone, you definitely discussed about so you as a person, I believe you have set your foot into the various roles which are present within the world of data, whether it is an analyst, whether it is data scientist. I believe like you have covered almost all of them. One thing which I really wanted to know more about is like during your earlier part of your career, what were the set of challenges and uh, like basic major milestone which led you to the current position where you are sitting right now?
Um, Milestones, learning to code. No one ever taught me. I like took a class in college, but I was never good at it. So banging my head against a wall and finally getting some projects out the door. Um, Major milestone was getting hired at Pearson for me. Uh, I had when I was working at Ernst& and Young, a couple of us were coding, but I wasn't working under someone who really knew how to build production code, and that person, beat beat it into me that like, no, this has to be done exactly well and thinking about it. Um, uh, Another one, leading actually data engineering role. I knew how to build data science models, but I didn't know how to build production systems. So the data science model is the heart of the thinking, but in the data engineering, you're learning how the production tool and everything that encapsulates the model comes together. So now I knew how to think of the actual entirety of the code of the software project. And then at Neiman Marcus, it was my first time formally leading teams. And so not only was I thinking about, okay, here's how I need my single project to go, but how do I effectively lead teams, empowering them to do the best work possible? And just because you end up as a data scientist or data analyst does not mean you need to go into management, but it was a big milestone for me.
Nice. So, for our listeners, like who may or may not be related or they could be new to the field, could you explain the significance what data and AI is actually portraying in the current era? Like we call it Silicon Age, and hence the name of the channel. But definitely wanted to know more. Like, what's your perspective and how data and AI is actually shaping the 21st century?
Um, I'm really excited about what's going on, even though there are some scary parts that come with it. Historically, a couple decades ago, or maybe even a decade ago, depending on where you're at, it was a little bit of it's called an old boys club, where the people just know each other and they tend to think, oh, I know what to do. I don't need some computer or some analyst telling me. But but analytics has come far enough, and data, what we're capturing, what we're retaining, what we're making available to people that are non-technologists has gotten so good that even everyone, for the most part, is coming on board that the ability to use this data for informed decisions makes the outcome of their decisions better. So a lot has been going on to that in the past, depending on how you count it, decades to hundreds of years. Um, but AI is a newer part of it. I'm going to focus on the generative part of it recently. Uh, what it does is it accelerates innovation and makes life easier and empowers non-technologists to do meaningful things, whether it's creating blog posts, email communications, uh, whether it's creating I had a company that used generative AI to create a marketing video that would have cost over $500,000 and been impossible situationally to do, but it cost them, tens of thousands of with it. It's just empowering faster deliverables. And AI is not the answer to everything, but learning what AI is capable of and thinking of whether it can accelerate your use case, even if it only gets you 60% of the way there, it may be able to do that in 10 minutes rather than you doing it in 10 hours and then you take it the rest of the way. So thinking about what AI can do and remembering the right use cases for it, it should not be in everything you do.
Okay, right. So one thing which I'm actually very keen on knowing is like since you have been into the tech world for quite some time, how have you seen the world of AI changing and evolving, like from the conventional learning models to the current the era of LLMs which we are living in. So how do you see? Have you seen like firsthand in terms of its evolution?
Um, First of all, people knowing what it is. AI, when I started, was um, cool thing that existed in movies and people joked about AI taking over the world. Now people are actually really starting to use it and companies are investing in it. When I got started over 10 years ago, we were only able to do prescriptive models, so predicting things, whereas AI is capable of creating compounding benefits as you have multiple analytical or AI systems on top of each other. The accessibility is just anyone who has internet access is able to use this, whereas before you had to pay for a tool or know the right people. Um, and it people can see the impact of it now. People believe in this. People get it well enough to know there are scary parts of this for us to think about. And so it's just able to do so much more, whether video creation, text generation, agents that are, when given enough context, can autonomously make decisions. You're able to use different AI tools together. One of the big ethical debates going on is AI in warfare. So, for example, should a drone be able to use predictive modeling to be able to identify whether a target is safe or not, and then use AI for its flying capability, and then autonomously decide whether to hit a target? That's one of the dangerous things AI can do, and it's kind of like when you talk about Voldemort and Harry Potter. It's terrible but great. It's awful, but it's a really interesting use case. So it can do so much more that everyone needs to be thinking about it. And I'm very glad that governments around the world are thinking about how to appropriately regulate this.
What I personally believe is that with the onset of generative AI in general, it has actually increased the ceiling of innovations like whatever which were existing in the past. Like for example, we have seen plenty of news where generative AI models are discovering new medicine, new gene, treatment for cancers, and you say it, and there are just like multiple applications which are running, which are contributing to the betterment of the world. And then again, with all the technologies which we have, it also has a dark side. And you called about that drone hitting the target. So I remember, I believe it is a scene from a movie where tech entrepreneur, I guess he's demonstrating the capability of a micro drone, and it was analyzing. And the moment it found the target, went ahead and it blew. I'm not sure whether it is a movie or it is a reality, but I believe it is a part of a movie. But then I guess with the models which we have, I, for sure a possibility. So, and I was going through your LinkedIn, and I found one thing that you have also been involved into lot many publications and patents. So, what have you have been part of like lot of projects? So, what are your, I'll say, the significant projects which you feel which actually made sure that, yeah, AI and data is my field and it is my kigai to work on.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, I just it cut out for a
Yeah,
second.
no worries. So I was actually going through your LinkedIn, and I found that you have been involved into multiple projects, and you also have few patents under your name. So, like with all those publications as well as paperwork, what were the like projects and papers to which it made sure that, yeah, AI and data is my field and it would be my forte, and it is something which I wanted to continue working on, like how it actually provoked your interest.
Um, I think if you looked at if people, when people look at my LinkedIn, it's important to keep in mind that your LinkedIn is kind of like all brands of social media in 2024. It's supposed to make you look glamorous and wonderful and all of that. So I put flashy things on my LinkedIn. All of it is true, but it's the best and shiniest things. And sometimes you look for things that are flashy and shiny. I think as listeners who are maybe earlier on in their career or are trying to get to a role like mine, um, keep in mind that it's about creating value. Those are the things that I'm most proud of. It isn't the patent itself that I'm most excited about. What one of the patents, what it was about was empowering teachers to know when a student is about to fail an upcoming examination, and then providing a recommendation as to why we think they might fail and offering a recommended intervention so the student can have engagement from the instructor before the exam and hopefully improve their grades. It's all of those models that went to production that had a real impact on people that really defined it for me. It's not the ones that made money for us. So it's stuff like that. Simulating the Medicare policy helps our government understand who will benefit to what extent and make sure that no one is negatively impacted. My work at Neiman Marcus was really interesting, but it's not necessarily as rewarding as some of the sentiment analysis work where there's a lot of amazing stuff happening at Fortune Brands. I can't get too detailed, but some of the work we've done on product sentiment is empowering our analysts to better understand our products and make them better in a way that actually has impacts on people. Um, yeah, not just their experience, but like protecting homes, better quality materials, stuff like that. Back at WEX, there was a model, the one that empowers people to ask questions in plain English about their health savings accounts. It's unfortunately very different in America than the rest of the world, but in America, there's a stressful time at the end of every calendar year where you're trying to decide what insurance you would like. And it's very expensive and it's very different and it's very challenging to know what is the right decision for your family because you don't always know what health things are going to come up and it's like 100 pages of technical stuff. And so being able to have AI sitting on top of these documents where people can ask questions and ask what's covered and ask what things mean, seeing whenever you build a data science model or any analytics product, do not care about whatever metric that you're using, whether root mean squared error, F1 score, accuracy. That isn't the thing that matters. The metric is supposed to be a representation of the impact that you're trying to have. And so we had some accuracy requirement for that HSA account communication agent. But what mattered is that we were able to see people being able to understand what was going on and be able to make informed decisions. So those are the things that really defined it for me. Building real products, that's what makes me want to keep going because I can see the impact that I have.
That's absolutely great. Like having a perception of, so it's not just the money, but what sort of impact which you are making. I believe that is something which matters a lot. And I also believe like it also gives you a sense of accomplishment that like whatever work which I'm doing, it is actually adding a value. So yeah, that's great. Okay, continuing on the same line of thoughts. So you have experienced different role in the data lifecycle. You have been a data analyst, you have been a data engineer, machine learning engineer. Out of all those, like what was something to which you found it to be very appealing? Like, yeah, this is something which I can actually do for a very long time, and you found it to be because you on the first hand you have experienced different set. So what is something which you find?
I really enjoyed when I was the hands-on data scientist. Um, Not only did I happen to work with really fun and bright people, but it was early in data science, so it wasn't flashy, and everyone knew what it was today in the mid 2010s. And it was really cool because you like seeing, okay, I know there are a couple relationships. These 10 variables generally make sense as to having a relationship between the inputs and the outputs. And I'm not able to see it, but I'm able to make a data science model that utilizes all of these features in order to make some sort of prediction. And then thinking through and looking at the data, how do I refine the data here? How do I clean it? How do I prepare it so that based on the type of model that I'm using and going through all the different types of models and then explaining to my peers and having them offer very direct constructive criticism on how we could be doing that better. I really enjoyed that process because it was very hands-on learning, and you absolutely can get some of it in school, but in the real world, the data is a lot messier, and you have product people that are asking questions, and the goal of what you're trying to deliver sometimes shifts. And so I don't know, it's if you like riding the bus while driving or driving the bus while trying to change a tire, sometimes data science has opportunities like that. It's really interesting trying to serve all of these stakeholders at once.
Nice. One thing, like I believe it. So I guess data engineering as a word, it came somewhere around 2010s, and it was there. But I see that somewhere around 2016, 2017, the word data engineering itself, it blew up. People started to recognize this. Yeah, it is also one of the prominent position in the data, like as a data life cycle, where you can take it and you can experience that. So how, so like in easy words, data engineer versus data scientist, like can you make kind of a difference which can help our listeners to, like for example, for those, especially for those who are early in their career and they wanted to experience data firsthand. So what are the differences which you personally feel and how they actually add up a value in the company?
Yeah. Um, so data scientists get way more attention because they build the core part of whatever that tool is. But data engineers are often overlooked unsung heroes that create real value. Like there's some of my best friends at work because the data scientists make the predictive part or the prescriptive part of whatever the tool is. The data engineers make sure that the data moves between, y- you think of data just being there, but often it's in the wrong place or it needs to be reliable at a certain time, or all of the pipes that connect things together. You just expect all of that to work, but it's actually really complicated, hard to do correctly and consistently. If you're working at a company of any size, you're often dealing with multiple systems. Well, how do you handle uh, different data types? There's a whole bunch of stupid little issues that can happen that you've maybe never thought about. I once had an error where I could not get 2 plus 2 to work. And what happened is one of the twos had a point after it and the other didn't. So one was a floating and the other was an integer. Um, Issues like that, those are the sort of things that data scientists and other people in your day to day, you just assume this is going to work. It's kind of like how in first world areas, you just expect water to come out and you expect it to be able to be consumed safely. But in reality, you have a whole water utility company that's dedicated to keeping the pipes in line and the flow and checking all the quality along the way. Those people do really important work, but you don't always think about it, and it's not flashy, so it doesn't always get the same attention. But data engineering is remarkably important, and you can build all the best models in the world, but if you don't have reliable data engineering, it's going to be hard to have a product. So they're both really valuable. It just depends on what you want your experiences to be. The data scientists end up having to have more discussion with your product stakeholders about what you're trying to accomplish and the impacts that you want. The data engineers need to understand how everything is fitting together and the product vision so that they can build reliable tools. Both are awesome careers.
Sure. All right. So that's absolutely great. The reason being, the reason of me asking this question was a lot of time people don't know that, like, data engineer now as a profession, it is coming up. But then again, people often perceive that, yeah, if you wanted to enter into the world of data, it's either you need to be a very fancy data analyst or data scientist or a machine learning engineer. But for the one who's actually creating the entire data infrastructure, data engineers, they get like little bit sideline, but then again their work is like absolutely something which we can't ignore. So now coming to like, you have worked into various startups and you have experience with that. So one basic questions which usually come to people's mind is startup versus any of the well-established company. It could be a startup versus a product-based company or a startup versus a service-based company. So, what's your perspective?
There's not a right answer overall. It's who are you and what are you looking for? Startups theoretically have a lot more risk. Are they able to pay you even? Sometimes the pay is worse, sometimes it's way, way better. Um, if you are looking to gain a bunch of experience very quickly, especially diverse experience, some of those startups have really cool opportunities because they don't have, data engineers at various levels and data scientists and all the layers of management that Fortune 500 companies have. Like, you might be reporting to the CTO as an entry analyst, and you can watch that person and see how they behave and what they think about, and you'll get remarkable tutelage. It can be a really amazing experience, but you're also taking on risk with the company. Is it going to get the next round of funding? Is the product going to create the value that do people like it? Does someone make the same thing better or first? Um, in the Fortune 5, in the not just Fortune 500s, but in more established companies, um, there's more structure to get you started. You can understand out of and the startups often cut corners. They're focused on getting that MVP, and so some places cut corners when doing that, or they build prototypes that work well at a small scale, but then don't work at a larger scale. Working at these larger organizations, you start to think about how multiple products come together, whether it could be dozens or hundreds. You get to see a lot of different things. So, like, um, you're not like, I might build different types of models, whereas the startup there might not be as many. You get to see how different organizations work, and it's sometimes a slower pace as well. Um, so it depends where at your stage of life you are and how aggressively you want to grow and how much risk you want to take on. Also, if you're going to go to I mean, I guess you should do this in any company, but particularly a startup, thinking through, do you believe in their mission? What is the point of the company? Does it make sense to you? Do you believe they're taking the steps to get there? In your interviews are like dates. I know the interviewer makes you talk a lot more, but you are also, they need someone. They're trying to court you as well. Ask the questions that you need to understand and feel comfortable and feel enticed to join their company. um, that's how you'll learn what's really right for you. And it's not just, and for me, as I've gone to companies that are 300 people, and I work for a company now that's 12,000 people. um, it's not just the company size and what they do, it's the opportunity in front of you. um, Sometimes, if that's a good decision, that's the company that you go with instead of waiting 2 years or for the right role. Um, so your life and where you're at is important in these decisions. It's not just the dream role.
True. All right. So, what are, I'll say, kind of dark sides of startups, or what are the challenges which people often face when they are working with startup, or let's just say they are even founding the companies? Because you have seen those things with very close quarters with your own eyes. So, what are the things which you personally feel could be, so as we have discussed, like it could be related to funding and all, but as an employee also, what are the drawbacks which you can see while working in a startups?
Some of the drawbacks, not just needing the funding, but someone has to be going out and trying to convince people to invest in this product. If you're the person who just wants to build the thing and you have to get involved in that, it can be really uncomfortable. Um, Constantly worrying about the funding, obviously. Do you really want to be wearing all of those hats? Also, if something breaks or it isn't working on time, it isn't necessary. The startup founder is not necessarily going to say, "Oh, we'll figure it out tomorrow." He or she might say, "No, we're getting this done," and then you work through the night 4 nights in a row. Um, there's a lot more of that "we need to get stuff done" attitude you'll sometimes find. Um, what else? Uh, yeah, that accountability can sometimes go way further than you like. Uh, a lot of the help and the things just assuming like assuming they work, you don't get at the start, the smaller stage startups. So like my laptop has an issue, like I can call IT and we'll get a new one or they'll fix it. After I build my model, I know there's a team of data engineers. There, if there isn't a data engineer, you need to go and learn it. You're going to be expected to go way outside of your comfort zone, and so you might feel uncomfortable feeling accountable for work that you aren't an expert in. Stuff like that. Some of the things that bothered me the most. Also, this is an opportunity and a detriment, but as you're building out something, um, it's not clear what the right next thing to do is. And so sometimes you have to make decisions on which feature or expand something or scale something. And sometimes you're going to be wrong and you're going to pay a cost for it. And it sucks.
True that. Like those are, I believe, one of the most frequent recurring fears which come up to people's mind whenever they are actually working at a startup or even if they are a founder. Like finding the next step, like what to do more. Those are, I guess, most of the lingering questions which come to people's mind. What's your perspective on Web3? So we know that cryptocurrencies are when people call Web3, I guess Web3 or blockchain, I guess most of the people think all about is Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general, but they have a implementation beyond that. What's your perception about Web3 and how is it turning up? Like how over the years it is coming?
Um, I am not the person to listen to for this. I'm the AI guy. The blockchain is, yeah, I've done some of the crypto stuff, nothing unethical, but um, I was really hoping that blockchain could move us towards very cool authentication measures. Um, I liked the idea of currency that is more global and not tied to a specific country, so it isn't its power isn't impacted by the geopolitical status. Just like we've experienced, it also opportunity also creates opportunity for the people that are doing evil. So um, it's also been used in some malicious and unfortunate ways as well. So I just actually just like AI, I see the good and the bad.
True. True, for sure. It's one of the prominent technology, but how it will be proceeding, I believe it is something which we are yet to explore. Because just like I believe machine learning in general, it was existing for a very long time. Then people saw that yeah, its applications are actually far beyond from any of the conventional orthodox setup which were coming up. Then Gen AI came, and now everyone knows about AI. I believe similar sort of, let's just say, lifeline would also be for Web3. Eventually, people will be realizing it, and it would come out of a closed niche of people, and it will blow up. So that's what my expectations from Web3 is. All right, so now coming to AI full fledged, like let's talk about AI and its different applications which we can talk about. So the very first thing is like AI in data management. Like, how do you see that AI is actually revolutionizing, let's just say, data warehousing or data management in general?
For data management and data governance, there's a lot about going on with identifying like fuzzy matching, confirming like, are you sure you wanted to make this decision, providing recommendations for how things should be aggregated together. Um, it's helping people scale that governance. And often it's not perfect, but it can go so fast. It empowers you to create a production tool in a reasonable time frame, and so that scaling is where the value is. With time, what I'm really excited for is for it to for data modelers to have like the kind of like when you talk with ChatGPT, have that sort of interaction with our data warehouse and be able to say, here is the sort of data warehousing methodology where you have your Imbal, your Kimbon, there's our data vault. Um, understanding that and then collaborating with it to design the data warehouses and talking about decisions that are made and the pros and cons. And we're not there yet, but it's not going to be too many more years before production tools are able to do that. So I'm very excited about the capabilities there.
True. So, what is in general, like, let's just say, any of the exciting development in the recent time, which do you think would like revolutionize this path of data management or data analytics in general to a very major extent? Like, what is the set of technology which we are looking for, or like any other development which you can think of, which is actually working on this?
Um, the utilization of large language models is just going to make everything different. Like that tool that I just that talked about that I would like to see as soon as possible. That's using large language models. At WEX, we were already building tools that you asked a question in plain English over a database. It translated that question into SQL code, and then would query the database, return the results to you, and you could even ask like summary statistics and things like that. It's really empowering our non-technologists to ask analytical questions. And with time, it'll not just be able to answer exactly what they said, but hey, I think you might like this instead. Um, it's not like one specific model or one specific AI tool. It's the collaboration of all of them together with a human on top of it. People ask a lot about, um, is AI going to take my job? Um, it's going to take jobs that are manual, repetitive, um, that don't require a lot of creativity. So I could see, a lot of automation jobs, factory creation, stuff like that. Some of the customer service roles, as AI gets so good that you actually don't mind talking to one, um, then it will help there. In if you're in a restaurant where the like fast food, for instance, where you're doing the same repetitive sort of thing over and over again, they actually have a um, McDonald's. I think it's in Fort Worth, Texas. Not a single human works there. It's the collaboration of all the little parts of the convolutional neural networks that are able to identify the imagery and the large language model that can think, quote unquote, through the text and perform things, the agents that are there for the automated decision making. It's not the specific one. They're all amazing and have created immense value on their own, but together you can really create tools rather than just individual, really wonderful things.
True. Are there like any sectors which you personally feel and are excited about, like which can benefit a lot from this rapid development in AI? Like sector which it could be untouched for now, but with this advancement, it can definitely benefit.
Um, it's hard not to say every industry, um, but honestly, I think I have a lot of friends in the government, and I think it could really help them if they can get over the risk tolerance or bring their tools inside. I know that they've already started on it, but they're analyzing so much information and creating rough drafts of products that are created that are providing recommendation for the imagery analysts that are identifying targets or identifying opportunities. It's getting farming. It's already being used in a whole bunch of areas for knowing where to plant or creating the seeds that will grow the best in certain areas in the production in the facilities for once you have the tomatoes and it's on the conveyor belt, using convolutional neural networks to identify which ones are ripe or which ones aren't. And there are videos you can see online of them falling, and it has little kickers that just get rid of the ones that aren't ripe. It's every industry. You don't Not everyone needs to know how to build AI technology, but you should be thinking about how AI technology can help you in your personal and professional life. And if you don't, you are using your time inefficiently.
True that. So in one of my last podcasts, so I had a word with he's a co-creator of AI, to which he said about it was GPTs in general, and there was a question which I asked him that will GPT will take away my job, to which he said one thing, and which I find it's like 100% valid, is these things are definitely something which will be coming up as assistants. Like he said that 10 years ago, how you were leveraging something, whether it could be in the very same profession, the tools as well as the set of skills which were being leveraged 10 years ago versus now, they are different. And if you won't evolve, then again, there may be a chance that it would be a game over for your profession. So I guess that is something which I personally believe, and I guess the application, it's like limitless. Like you just simply can't think of it's being used in genome, it also being used in HFT. It's like endless, absolutely
Yeah.
endless.
And and like that other person was saying, AI is special and that it's unique sorts of innovations it's created, but the disruption that it's creating is not novel in its magnitude. Um, this change has been constant. We just forget about it because life is long in certain ways, and we haven't lived for hundreds of years so short in other ways. Um, in the past 150 years, electricity, everything with the Industrial Revolution, the creation of the automobile, the creation of the telephone, the expansion of the internet, um, all of those things have created remarkable revolutions that changed almost every industry. This is just the one we're in right now. This keeps happening over and over again, and I'm very excited to see what the next one will be as well.
Completely agree. So now coming to the part of work-life balance. Career in tech may get very, very stressing time to time. How do you manage your work-life balance in general? How do you maintain that every part of your life is going good? Like it's not just my job, it's also my, it's like as they say, it's not just your 9 to 5, it's also your 5 to 9. How you are working on it, how you are making it great. So what's your perspective on it, and how do you maintain a work-life balance?
Great question. Super important. Um, First of all, when you're in your interview process somewhere, um, talk about that. Say, this is something that's important to me. There are times it will cost you a job, but it's likely a job you didn't want. Um, Talk about what does work-life balance look like here? What are the hours typically here? Just have an understanding. Um, and then, the job happens. There are times where you work crazy hours and sometimes where it's a bit lighter. Um, 80-20 rule. So, 20% of the effort has 80% of the impact. um, there's going to be so much going on, and everything is always important, and everything's always a top priority. What's actually going to make the most impact? If you can make a website pink instead of just red, white, and blue, versus having a new page that empowers your customers to buy additional products, do the new page. They'll forget about the pink. There are times your boss is really excited about lots and lots of things, and will talk about lots and lots of things, but figure out what's important to them. Um, I had a I had a manager who was indelicate in his communication about this, and it is not correct, but it's something to keep in mind. Um, what is it that makes your boss's life easier? Understanding their priorities and what they're really trying to accomplish, and if whatever you're doing doesn't fit into that, um, then it isn't something that's going to help you with your work-life balance. My boss, the patents I have from Pearson, um, did not care at the end of the day about the patents that I had. He did care if the model was delivered by that specific date because that's when it needed to go to deployment. Um, he cared that the model was able to serve people. He didn't care if there was a nuance for every single country. Understanding exactly what the scope of I care most about this is, once you deliver that, there will be a new thing that people care about. So focus on the core value. Don't get distracted by all the hoopla and stuff. What's most important, and keep doing that. Um, and your 9 to 5 will be a bit easier. Also, finding a healthy balance with with meetings if you can. If you're a manager, you're going to have a hard time.
That is something which I believe I have seen, like even for my managers, because over the time when you become like you move away from IC roles of individual contributor and you go and be part of people's manager. I believe that is the time when meetings are something which are like your calendar is full of that. And those are definitely important for business. So definitely something we can't have it on the backlog, but uh, completely essential. As a leader yourself, how would you be recommending organization that can help their employees in maintaining work life balance? Like what are your suggestions? Like how do you make sure that your team is very well settled in terms of this as aspect of their working?
Literally ask, how many are you working regular hours? Um, I tell them, uh, hey, like you need to like tell if you are going beyond 9 to 5s, like if it happens for a night, whatever. But if it's happening regularly, I need to know about it because that means you're not working efficiently or we're assigning you too much work. Um, it's protecting your team and making sure they don't have too many ad hoc requests so they can focus on I said do the most important things. If you're a people leader, you need to keep in mind the point of your organization and make sure they're almost always doing the most important things there. Um, Also, that includes things like you have to take PTO. If you're not taking PTO, your directs might not feel comfortable. If they're asking for PTO, unless there's something remarkable happening, you need to grant it. Um, and have plans in place for when people take PTO. How is the work going to happen without everyone else working 60 hours a week? So lead by example, ingrain that communication into your organization, and bring it up regularly. I also often start one-on-ones with how are things going with you as an employee, not hey, I need to talk about this project, because I need to give people the opportunity to bring up problems that don't fit into other questions.
For that. So that's, I believe it's definitely very essential, especially for a person to work continuously in a IT industry. I believe work-life balance is very, very crucial. And until unless you have that, I guess it's kind of a cause and effect. Until unless you have that sorted, you won't be able to do 100% in your work. So now, moving ahead, consider that you are starting afresh, and but with whatever the learning which you have made till now, how will you be starting now? Like for example, if I'll be entering into this field today, what are the certain set of skills, as well as what would be your advice for me if I wanted to dip my toes into the world of data?
A really interesting question. Um, it's such a hard thing to know right now because I feel like we're in the middle of all the AI stuff. Um, Find if you're like in college still, um, find internships as quick during your summers. Um, if you can, I understand a lot of people have different financial abilities, but even if it's during school, we don't care about your grades as much as the things you've actually done. So finding internships, being a data engineer or an analyst or being a data scientist, um, play with those different things or take classes where you can do them and see which ones you enjoy and then focus your internship um, experiences. Just because you start in one doesn't mean you can't hop to another one pretty easily. If you're a person who delivers, you end up doing it. I've switched a few times. Um, uh, just getting the best thing you can do is finding experiences that are happening in the real world. So something that's happening at a real company, not a project from school. That's where you really learn, and that's what's going to get you that first job. And in that first job, you can then find the tangential opportunities. So there's not a wrong one. You have to just figure out what's right for you and what opportunities are in front of you. If I had an analyst role or I could just do AI research on my own, I'd do the research part time just to learn it and then get the analyst job and then see if I can get the AI into that opportunity.
That's great. And so One kind of a weird question to ask, but then again, definitely wanted to ask from you is, so let's just say, so over the year, so people have career aspirations. They wanted to move to a different role, and they wanted to try a different thing. But I guess one common component of which and common thought which comes in everyone's mind is, when is the right time to switch? And when should I be like, yeah, this job is good now, but then again, I wanted to explore more. And how does the switching in an IT industry looks like? So when should be the right time
Yeah.
for moving out?
If you know you want something else, earlier in your career is better because they're willing to accept you with less experience. As you go through your career and you're starting to make more money, you're not going to want to take the giant pay cut, or you have a family or a lifestyle that you can't afford to take that pay cut. And also, it's unfulfilling to work on things you don't like. Your life is too short not to live it to the best possible. So if you know that's really what you want to do, you don't have to rush, but start taking the steps casual, at least casually start interviewing and see if you have the right skills. Reformat your resume. Just start taking steps.
All right. That's great. And with I am absolutely, absolutely grateful to have you as a guest here. And it was the reason why it was amazing was not just we discussed about tech, but we discussed something very important about work-life balance and different aspect of the career as a person in tech. So I believe that was an amazing experience to hear from you. And I personally believe that you, as a person, you have a lot of podcasts in you, and I love to have you also in the future, like whenever you're free. And thanks again for coming to the show.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. If you're watching this, um, it's really intimidating if you're in this field. You see people with the fancy titles, the jobs, the experience, the doctorates. Um, Everyone has imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter how high up you go, you're really grateful to be there. Be yourself, be honest, be productive, and don't forget the human component. And with time and opportunity and a little bit of luck, it'll happen. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone. To all those who are watching, thanks for joining and thanks for watching this show. And stay tuned for more exciting episodes coming over tech, business, and entrepreneurship. Thank you.